Welcome to Accounting Life with Jotham Tai, a space where we'll talk about anything and everything surrounding the people that grind through your month-end accounting close.
Hi, everyone. Today's episode is Promoting Professional Development for Accountants. Our guest today is Senad Mustafic, Chief Accounting Officer at Benchling. On this episode, we talk about the role of feedback in professional development, the amount of time you should spend developing your team members, and important issues in promoting and retaining employees. Now, I'll hand it over to our host, Gapify CEO, Jotham Tai.
Hey, Senad, welcome back to the show. How's it going today?
Good morning, Jotham. Thanks for having me back. You're starting to get me used to these super early morning conversations on tape. Things are good. How are things with you?
Pretty good. I'm an early morning person. I'll get into this probably in another episode, but with month-end closes, I used to come in at 5 or 6 a.m. in the morning at the office. I wanted to just get a head start. So very used to this format, and I hope you are as well.
Yeah, but the level that you just described, that's not something I've reached in the past, and I don't think that I will. That's pretty impressive, 5 or 6 in the morning in the office.
Well, yeah, it was not fun, but it was productive. Let's just put it that way.
Cool.
But for today, I know we in accounting talk a lot about month-end closes, technical accounting, but I really love talking to you about staff development. I know last time we talked about how to build a rockstar accounting team, like how to go about the interview process. But for this episode, I'd like to focus on, okay, you've got these seats filled. And I know, Senad, you have experience building, and adding teams at scale. But when they're in their seats and now, part of your company, we'd love to get some perspectives on that side. So hopefully you're ready for some of these questions.
Looking forward to it.
Awesome. Well, we'll dive right in. So let's just talk, just generally speaking, how would you describe the importance of feedback for staff and developing this? So, just really start high level to kick things off.
Yeah, feedback, I think, is very, very important component of our jobs. And I think that it's a very important ingredient for anybody's development. I have a benefit that I grew up in Serbia. Serbia, like most European cultures, from my perspective, is a place where people are really good at providing negative feedback, not as good at providing positive feedback. I think that in the US, we are very good at providing positive feedback, not as good at providing negative. I think that we feel generally uncomfortable to provide negative feedback. I try to piece my upbringing and my work experience in the US, and I try to be very honest and direct about negative or positive feedback. I believe both are important. I think that providing them constantly is important. I don't think that we should be waiting for review cycles that happen once a year, twice a year to provide feedback. I think that we should be honest with each other, providing it regularly, and I think that it benefits everyone. I think an important aspect of this is that not every time when we provide feedback are we going to be correct. Not every time whatever we give to the person is going to be the right thing for them. But by providing it frequently and by being honest about it and providing a safe environment for discussion, if we provide a piece of feedback and then hear back something that proves that we were wrong, that's actually great. That's great for the person, that's great for us, that's great for the team environment, because we have resolved a disconnect that was there between us. And even we as a feedback provider could have been wrong about it. So I think when it comes to feedback, regardless of the level of the recipient, and this goes for upward feedback as well, I think that it should be provided regularly and very honestly.
Well, I think those 2 points are actually connected. So to summarize, just being able to provide feedback earlier than just the actual annual review cycle. And then, accepting that the feedback that is provided may not be accurate the first time. I think they go hand in hand, right? So if you share feedback more frequently and maybe something is incorrect or incomplete or inaccurate, then you have time to recalibrate versus at the end of the year, you give your review and, if you learn at that point in time that it was, not the most reflective feedback, then there's not much time to maneuver. So I love those points. And I want to double click specifically because this is an accounting podcast. Senad, what do you think should be or is different about going through the development process and the feedback process when it comes to accounting specifically that may not relate to other departments? Or would you say it's about the same?
I think there are certainly similarities with other functions. I think that accounting is a deeply technical subject matter and very detailed subject matter. So I think that most frequently the feedback that we provide in the accounting area cannot remain super high level, cannot focus just on the interpersonal or the way that we present ourselves. I do think that it frequently needs to be about how do we get our work product to be better? How do we work as a team on a process or a technical matter to resolve something, to take position about something? So I think that the accounting is interesting because it intersects the very technical and the very personal. And I think touching on both in feedback is important.
And you hit on a great point there because, and I hate to generalize, but and maybe this is more towards like the generation that I came up in when I entered the accounting profession, but I think there's a tendency in accounting to focus on the technical as being like the ultimate kind of benchmark for productivity. But the points that you made, like collaboration, adherence to the company's values and vision, like I think maybe in accounting, and forgive me if I summarize incorrectly, like I think within accounting, there may be more effort to get people to understand that it's not just about technical, it's, about, these broader items are important for an organization.
I think a lot of people, when they hear accounting, they think mathematics. I think that accounting is about 50% mathematics and the other 50% is language, communication. I also think that to every performer in the accounting field, there are three dimensions. One of them is the technical performance. The other one is work ethic. And then the third one is social. And by social, I don't mean how we perform when we go to a happy hour or how we interact with each other at the soccer game. What I mean is being capable to, in the moment that is tense, in the moment when we're working on something difficult, being the individual who is going to say something to either relax the entire room or ask a question that's going to guide us to a place where we'll arrive at the answer. That's maybe partly technical skill, but it's quite a bit of a social skill as well. And so on our teams, we need people who are strong in each of the three. And nobody is going to stand out in all three areas, I don't think. But when providing feedback, I think if we focus the way that we deliver feedback, if we focus that on the specific area, I think that'll be easier to understand, easier to interpret, and it'll give more things to focus on and to improve.
Yeah, and expanding on that, Senad. So last time I asked a similar question on the hiring side and recruiting side, like how much would an accounting leader like you spend on hiring and recruiting? I'm going to ask the same question now, like how much time should a leader invest in staff development? And, of course, you don't have to give the accounting like number answer, but just if you can give our audience your perspective on what the right balance is.
Well, first of all, that's a phenomenal question. And second, I can't resist but to answer it like an accountant.
Of course, we're accountants.
Totally. So I think that it is a very significant amount of time that needs to be spent on staff development. It is certainly higher than 50%. I would say it is somewhere between 75 and 85%, roughly. And how that happens is I personally feel that accounting is a broad area, but it is not sufficiently broad where senior leaders would have an excuse to live in an ivory tower where they operate separate from their teams and where they just kind of issue direction, instruction at a very high level and then expect the team to execute. I think accounting is a detailed discipline and one where senior leaders need to be connected to the detail, need to be connected to the team. This is true even from an external perspective, like our CFOs, our CEOs, leaders of other departments within our company, external parties, they expect us to know a certain amount of detail. And this is very specific for accounting. I don't think this is true for many other fields, but it is totally normal for somebody to ask you, hey, what was your revenue last quarter? Or what did you do about this stock comp situation from an accounting perspective? And you're expected to know that answer. And that is totally okay. That's part of our job. So to enable ourselves to be that person that can provide the answers and guidance relatively quickly, we have to stay connected to the detail. And so when I say that we are spending 75, 85% of time on staff development, what I mean is that we should dedicate definitely more than half of our time understanding our work papers, understanding our memos, attending our team meetings, going together with our team to cross-collaborative meetings with other departments of the company where we are solutioning, where we are discussing, helping the team think through and solve the problems. That should be a core aspect of our job. And so in doing that, I think that somewhat indirectly, we are contributing to staff development every day. And I think that that's the healthiest way to set up the relationship between the senior leadership and the rest of the team. And it's not one directional. It's not like in these discussions, as we review work papers, as we look at memos, as we talk as a team about processes, let's say operational processes in accounts payable, as we sit down and talk together, it's not one directional. It's not just that we contribute to the staff development. Staff people on our team contribute to our own development as well, because we will hear a lot of different ideas being exchanged, a lot of topics covered. There's a ton that we can learn from each other, definitely not one directional. But I just think the job is very dynamic. I think that it is filled with detail, important detail that needs to be known, filled with passionate people who want to learn. There's just this amazing environment where I think there's so many factors that encourage you to structure your organization in a way where there's constant interaction across levels in various different work-related settings. So it's not like you schedule a lunch and learn, and that's how you provide, how you contribute to staff development. That's okay collaboratively with other teams. Like if I need to learn something about, let's say, FP&A or sales, if we have lunch and learn, that's great, no problem. But for us within the team, there's so much work off of which we can learn that we need to leverage that. And that's why I think staff development happens all the time.
Yeah, well, try to connect some of those dots there, Senad, but that is a lot of rich information about staff development, which I think is incredibly helpful for our audience. But to connect some of the big takeaways, so we talked about how, maybe someone in AP or someone in payroll, they have to understand technical basics like coding of invoices, how ESPP programs work, and so on and so forth. But then there's a cross-functional piece, right? So in AP, you're not going to get away from having to collaborate with people across the organization. Maybe it's strategy on like vendor payment timing or invoice structuring invoices, or on the ESPP side, it's partnering with HR and also the employees directly on communication. So it's not, I guess table stakes is that you have to kind of know the accounting technicals, but the development part is important with the kind of the cross-functional, the collaboration, and the kind of the social aspect you touched on earlier. And social doesn't necessarily mean, hey, I'm going to show up for that bowling happy hour or that, cocktail hour happy hour. It's developing influence and learning that skill and that trait, which I think is actually pretty cool to learn about if you ask me.
Totally agreed. And that's even before considering the external aspect of communication, right? You mentioned AP. A big component there is communicating and maintaining relationship with vendors, which is also an important aspect for any company. So definitely agree with you.
Well, I hope the non-accountants that are listening to the podcast will understand now that we're not just about the numbers. There's a lot more in our job that requires coaching and development. And this is why I'm glad we're having these types of conversations. So a couple just scenarios I want to quickly run by you. So as it relates to staff development, how do you think about promoting people that are high performers? What are some good strategies or tactics there that you've applied in your position as a leader?
I think that promotions are dependent on three factors. One is performance of a person. Ideally, person is performing so well that they're almost overflowing their current role. It's almost obvious they should be promoted. The second aspect is time. It would be very unusual to be promoted in under a year in a job. And typically, I think you need at least about 2 years to master a job and be really good at it before moving on to something else. And obviously, it can take longer. It can take shorter in some circumstances. But in general, time is a factor. And then the third aspect is opportunity. There needs to be an opportunity in the team. We can't have everybody on the team be director level indefinitely. So there are various different aspects there at play. I think that we also, as senior leaders of an accounting organization, have a responsibility to make sure that our people are marketable externally in the market if they at some point for some reason look for another job. When I say that, what I mean is if, let's say, somebody on our team gets promoted to manager and then they go somewhere else and they can't perform at the manager level, that very poorly reflects on our organization. And the accounting world and business world is relatively small. People know each other really well. And you can earn poor reputation really fast that way. So while it's an attractive thought to promote purely for retention purposes, it is definitely counterproductive, because in a way, if you do it too much and too often, you undervalue your own team. That said, I do think that if team is structured and work divided, how we talked about it before, where there is a lot of interaction between senior leaders and the rest of the team on a day-to-day basis, there should be almost constant evaluation of talent and understanding for what people are potentially capable of. And then ability to recognize that, oh, wow, this person is really good here in revenue accounting, and now we have an opportunity opening up on the corporate accounting side, and they would do a great job there. It'll be a stretch assignment, but we should definitely provide it to them and get them there. I think that we have a responsibility to always think about those opportunities and then take advantage when they come up. But to enable ourselves to kind of be in a position where we really understand the talent on our team and can make proposals for how that talent develops over time, we need to be close to the talent. We need to work together with the team to understand what people's abilities are. And if we do that, and if we're constantly evaluating, we're constantly providing feedback, then I think we're going to have good ability to just not miss out on opportunities where we can promote somebody internally and give them a chance to develop and learn a new skill, own a new job, while also getting benefit for the company, because they are obviously a good performer if they're getting promoted.
Yeah, and that really ties very nicely back to one of your original points about frequency of feedback, right? So feedback is not just being able to provide timely, constructive, or positive, or opportunities to your staff, but it's also kind of road mapping and getting a good pulse on readiness for opportunities and promotion. So yeah, I mean, I love how a lot of these points tie together, and just piggybacking off of this section to another question, which is, okay, so you have someone who is excelling, they're doing great, they've gotten promoted, but maybe there are new opportunities outside the company. So what are some good tactics there? And I think it's a very timely question too. And I know the market is a little wobbly right now, but there seems to be still a lot of accounting opportunities outside that people are exploring. So how would you advise accounting leaders to treat a situation where an employee is thinking about leaving that you obviously want to retain?
Personally, I think that a lot of leaders make a mistake in that once a person on the team announces that they intend to leave, at that point, in a lot of cases, there tends to be an attempt to promote, to provide raises, to do all kinds of things to incentivize the person to stay. Occasionally, the desire to leave can be because of a misunderstanding of some kind. And if that is the case, we should totally work through that. But a lot of times, the person that has decided to potentially leave has done so and has evaluated opportunities that they were given. And to now, artificially give a promotion or give a raise would be completely unfair. It would be unfair to the rest of the team, because people shouldn't be incentivized to threaten to leave. And
promotes that same behavior, right? So if you it kind of sets precedent almost.
Totally, it's unfair to the rest of the team, but it's also unfair to the person. This is a free world. It is totally okay to have a desire to work at a different place. I think that as senior leaders, we have responsibility to help our team, to help our individual team members. I always feel loyalty is first at the individual level to every single individual on the team. And if for a particular individual, there is a better opportunity elsewhere for whatever reason, then I think our professional and personal obligation is to help that person find the opportunity that's best for them. And if they've already found it, I think we should be happy for them. And if that indicates that we've done something wrong over the course of their tenure at our company, then we should take a hard look at ourselves and do it better next time with the next person that's in the seat. I don't think we should just think about, the fact that we're going to have to replace this person. It's going to be hard. We have to think about what's the best for the person first. And if that is, for them to be at another place, I think that is okay. We should help them do that. We should assess the situation, learn from it, and move on.
Yeah, and I think that's a great way of looking at it. This whole notion that you have 100% retention is like not realistic and not in the best interest for everyone, including the individual or perhaps the company. So I think it's up to us leaders to, kind of accept that, do what we can, obviously. And when we do something wrong as an organization, correct it, rectify. But naturally, opportunities are going to grow sometimes away from, the company itself. So I don't think that's a bad thing. And of course, like there are metrics and benchmarks that say, a certain level of attrition is acceptable. And we as leaders have to actually be prepared for contingency plans because, these things naturally happen. It's just part of life. And yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, to be clear, I agree 100% retention is very unlikely, but I am not saying that there should be high attrition or to expect high attrition or the high attrition is good. I'm not saying that at all. I think that it is possible to, not possible to get 100, but close to 100 is possible. If you develop a team within which you have honesty and conversation, and so that, if somebody is dissatisfied, they will come to you and have a conversation about it before they actually go and consider another job. And in that conversation, you may agree that the best thing is for that person to go ahead and search for the job. But if you have that honesty, the likelihood of retention, I think, is higher. Also, if your company is performing well and opportunities are created within the company for promotion or growth, that's also a factor. And there are many other external factors, personal aspects of people's lives and career aspirations and all that kind of stuff. So all of that plays a role. I do not mean that high retention is impossible or unlikely, but I'm just saying that in case that individuals express desire to leave, I don't think that we should just unnaturally promote to retain. I think that we should understand the circumstances and think about the person, let them do whatever is best for them, and then take an honest look at ourselves and see if we can improve.
100% agree. Someone threatening to leave should not be the impetus for a promotion. It's unfair to that person. And another point that you made, which I think is critical in all this, is it also depends on the company, right? I think you mentioned the point, if the company is performing well, it's high growth, you're going to have more opportunities for that employee to choose from. So you get closer to 100% than companies who are maybe going the other direction when there are less opportunities to move into different directions. So it's a very loaded question, and there is like a very loaded topic that I meant to ask you questions about for this podcast, but I think we're gonna have to save it for a next episode, and that's the whole concept of remote. You know where I'm going with this: remote, hybrid, or in office. I see that you're in office, but I think we're gonna have to save that for next time. Senad, thank you so much for joining us on today's episode. This is, again, very helpful and insightful. And I guess I'm teasing this now to the audience. For the next one, if you don't mind coming back, I'd love to do one specifically on remote, hybrid, and in office. And I guess, as we wrap up here, any sneak preview of like your perspectives there? Or do you want to save that for the next episode?
Well, in short, I don't think we have that much of a choice as an organization at an organizational accounting level. As individuals, yes, but organizationally, I think that's mostly set by the company. But we do have a choice for how committed we are going to be as to execution around whether it is in office or at home or a hybrid. I think how we execute, that's something that we control. But the first one, as to whether it's one or the other, I think that's mostly set by the company. I don't know if that was enough of a teaser, or maybe it's revealed too much to them. I don't know.
We're now incorporating like cliffhangers on our podcast. This is pretty cool. It's like a Walking Dead episode where you don't know who's gonna get chopped next. But I can't wait to dig in there. And Senad, again, appreciate you taking the time to join us on today's podcast, and looking forward to having you back next time.
Pleasure, Jotham. Thank you very much.
Thanks for stopping by. We hope you've enjoyed this episode. If you want more information, please check us out at gapify.com, and we'll see you next time. Bye, everyone.